Welcome back to Family Justice Files. News stories ready. Watch till the end. The bank manager's face went completely white. His hands actually trembled as he reached for the phone. "Lock the front doors," he whispered to his assistant. "Call the police. Now." He stared at me like I'd just handed him a live grenade, not my dead grandfather's old passbook. The same passbook my mother threw in the trash yesterday, calling it worthless junk that should have stayed buried with him. If it meant nothing, she wouldn't have moved that fast. She wouldn't have looked that angry. She wouldn't have needed it gone. But I'm getting ahead of myself. My name is Danica Gross. I'm 31. And until that morning, I thought my biggest problem was a broken radiator and a landlord who never answered. Turns out my family was hiding something with teeth. The funeral was on a Tuesday. My grandfather, Eugene Gross, had made it to 89, and somehow my mother still managed to treat his goodbye like a task she wanted off her list. Miriam planned everything with a stopwatch energy. Short ceremony, short reception, then everyone goes home. No lingering, no tell me a story about him, no room for anything messy, like love. The food tasted like someone gave up halfway through trying. My grandmother would have complained about it just on principle. My brother Wyatt arrived late in a suit that cost more than my car. He blamed parking like we weren't standing in front of a wide-open gravel lot. He hugged our mother like a politician, shook hands, checked his phone. Wyatt has never been good at emotions that don't benefit him. I stayed to the side and watched them perform grief like it was a staged reading, and all I could think about was the version of my grandfather I actually knew. Eugene was an accountant for 40 years. Numbers were his language. He could stare at a page of digits and tell you what was missing. He was also a chess player, a serious one. When I was 7, he taught me on the porch with a board between us and lemonade sweating in the heat. He used to say chess wasn't about the pieces you captured. It was about the positions you created, the traps you set, the patience to wait. His favorite line was always the same. "The truth is patient. It can wait longer than any lie." I didn't understand what he meant until the last time I saw him. 2 weeks before he died, I visited him at the farmhouse. He looked weak, but his eyes were sharp in a way that scared me. He grabbed my hand and pulled me close. "The passbook," he whispered, "in my study. The chess book. Only you, Danica, promise me." I promised, even though I didn't understand. After the service, we all went back to the farmhouse like it was part of the schedule. Miriam was already walking room to room talking about selling the place. Wyatt nodded along like this was a business meeting they'd rehearsed. I slipped away to the study. It smelled like old paper and tobacco that never fully left the walls. I found the chess book right where it belonged, and the moment I lifted it, I knew. Too heavy. I opened it. The pages had been hollowed out like a secret compartment. Inside was an old leather passbook, worn at the edges, like something from another era. For a second, I forgot my mother existed. I just stood there holding my grandfather's final instruction. Then I made the mistake of bringing it into the living room. Miriam saw it and moved fast. She crossed the room, snatched it out of my hands, glanced once, and threw it straight into the kitchen trash. "This is garbage," she said. "Old accounts. Worthless." This should have stayed buried with him. "Don't go digging through his things, Danica." Wyatt laughed from the couch. "Always the sentimental one, aren't you, Danny?" And as they exchanged a quick, nearly invisible look, the kind people give when they share a secret, I realized something cold and simple. If it was truly worthless, my mother wouldn't have been scared of it. That night, I lay in bed staring at the ceiling like it had answers. If the passbook was worthless, my mother could have rolled her eyes and handed it back. Instead, she threw it away like it could bite. And I couldn't stop thinking about my grandfather 2 weeks earlier. Weak body, sharp eyes, deliberate voice. Eugene Gross did not hide things by accident. He'd been an accountant for 40 years. Paperwork didn't scare him. He didn't whisper, "only you," unless he was protecting something from everyone else. At 5 in the morning, I drove back to the farmhouse with the radio off. The fields were quiet. No cars, no family. I let myself in with the spare key under the porch step, straight to the kitchen. The trash can was exactly where I left it. I pulled out the bag, set it on the floor, and started digging. 31 years old, paralegal, elbow deep in funeral garbage before sunrise. The passbook was near the bottom under coffee grounds and napkins. I wiped it off with my sleeve and opened it right there. The leather cover looked ancient, but the account number didn't. The format felt wrong, too modern. That's when I found the note tucked into the spine, folded into a tiny square. My grandfather's handwriting, clean, careful. Account number 77412-289. They don't know about this one. Ask for the full history. Trust no one in the family, only you, Danica. I read it 3 times. They don't know. Meaning my mother, meaning Wyatt. Working at a law firm teaches you habits that aren't optional. So I took photos of the passbook and the note. I uploaded them to cloud storage before I even stood up. Documents get lost, backups don't. I drove home with the passbook in my bag and my stomach tight with questions. And for the first time, I stopped wondering if I was being dramatic. My grandfather left a trail on purpose. All I had to do was follow it. At 10 that morning, my phone rang. Miriam. Her voice was sweet in a way that didn't match her. "Just checking on you," she said. "Hard day for all of us." Then, like a casual afterthought, "You didn't take anything from the farmhouse, did you? We need to catalog things before the sale." I kept my tone smooth. "Just one of Grandpa's chess books, for memories." A pause, then, "Good, that's fine." And then the warning, "Don't go digging through his things anymore. Some things are better left alone. Your grandfather wasn't himself." I didn't argue, but inside something in me went cold. 2 weeks ago, Eugene looked me in the eye and gave me precise instructions. That wasn't confusion. That was a plan. That evening, my phone rang again. Wyatt. His voice was too friendly, like a man rehearsing. "Mom said you've been asking about Grandpa's stuff," he said. "Just making sure you're okay." "I'm fine." He didn't even pretend to be curious for long. "You know, Grandpa didn't really have much," he said. "Mom's going to handle the sale. I'll handle the property. You don't need to worry about any of it." And there it was. They had already divided everything. Before he hung up, he added, "Just let it go, Danny. You know how Mom gets." After the call, I stared at the passbook. 10 a.m. Miriam, 7 p.m. Wyatt. 9 hours apart. Like they were checking what I knew. So I did what I always do when something feels off. I documented it. Time. Exact phrases. Then I gathered what I'd need for the bank, my ID, proof of who my grandfather was to me, and one clear request from his note. Full history. No shortcuts. Tomorrow I stop guessing. Tomorrow I go to the bank. And whatever my mother is trying to bury, I'm going to bring it into the light, quietly, carefully, and with proof. The next morning, I took a personal day. I drove 2 hours to a small-town branch that felt stuck in time. Quiet lobby, old chairs, a bowl of untouched mints. I walked in at 9:15 with the passbook in my bag and my grandfather's note in my head. Ask for the full history. No shortcuts. The teller smiled when I stepped up. Polite, normal. She took the passbook, typed the account number, and her smile slid right off her face. She blinked, typed again. "Just one moment," she said, and disappeared into the back. I sat down and tried to breathe like a reasonable person. Minutes passed, then more. The longer I waited, the more my mother's voice tried to crawl into my head. Worthless junk, old accounts, don't go digging. Then a man in a suit appeared at the edge of the lobby and called my name. He didn't look curious. He looked careful. He led me into a private office and closed the door behind us. He set the passbook on the desk like it belonged in a file, not a purse. "Miss Gross," he said, "this account is flagged in our system." My stomach tightened. Flagged never means simple. He tapped the worn leather cover. "This looks old," he said, "but the account isn't." He explained in that calm, professional tone that the account was opened in the modern era. The vintage passbook was camouflage, something my grandfather used to make it look like a relic, not an active account. A way to hide it in plain sight. Then he wrote a number on a sheet of paper and slid it toward me. The balance was over $2 million. For a second, my brain refused to accept it. My grandfather lived quietly. Same sweaters, same porch, same routines. And he'd been sitting on money my family acted like didn't exist. But the man didn't smile. He didn't congratulate me. His face stayed tense, like the number wasn't the real problem. "There's something else," he said. Years ago, someone tried to access this account. They came in with paperwork claiming authority, documents that looked legitimate at first glance, with a signature that was close enough to fool most people. But the bank's verification process flagged inconsistencies. The transfer was denied, and the attempt was logged. My mouth went dry. "Who?" I asked, already knowing what answer would change everything. He looked down at his notes, then said it plainly. Miriam Gross, my mother. My mother had tried to reach this account years ago and failed. I didn't feel shocked as much as rearranged. Suddenly, her reaction at the farmhouse made perfect sense. She didn't throw that passbook away because it was useless. She threw it away because it was dangerous. To her, the man leaned back slightly, still measured, still controlled. Based on what we're seeing, he said, we have to escalate this. He didn't say it like drama. He said it like procedure. Like there were steps he was required to follow once certain lines were crossed. He made a call while I sat there gripping the arms of my chair. Then he made another call. Quiet voices in the hallway, a door opening and closing. He looked at me again. This account isn't just money, he said carefully. It's history, it's record-keeping, and someone tried to touch it. History, a trail, a fingerprint left behind. I thought about my grandfather's chess lessons. He always told me the win wasn't about the piece you captured. It was about the position you created. Sitting in that office, I finally understood. My grandfather didn't leave me a surprise. He left me a move, one he couldn't make out loud while he was alive. And now it was sitting on a desk between us, ready to speak. 2 days after the bank, my phone rang with a number I didn't recognize. The voice on the other end was old, steady, careful. He said he'd been my grandfather's friend for decades. He said my grandfather left instructions. If anything happened to him, he told me, I was to contact you, only you. I drove to his office that afternoon. Nothing fancy. Quiet building, wood shelves, the kind of place where paperwork lives longer than people's excuses. He set a thick folder on the desk between us like it had weight beyond paper. Your grandfather spent years building this, he said. Inside were copies of documents that didn't feel like family drama. They felt like a case. There were signatures side by side, real ones, and ones that were just close enough to fool strangers. There were transaction records and dates written in my grandfather's handwriting, neat and precise. He had logged everything. Not because he enjoyed suspicion, because he knew no one would believe him while he was alive. The man looked at me and lowered his voice. Your grandfather tried to raise concerns, he said, but he knew the family would call him confused, so he prepared for after. I flipped through page after page and felt my throat tighten. This wasn't a misunderstanding. This was a pattern. Then he pointed to one section and said carefully, there's another name that shows up. Wyatt. Not just as someone who benefited, as someone who helped move things around. I didn't ask for details I wasn't ready to hear. I just sat there, staring at my brother's name on paper like it didn't belong. That's when the next part became clear. If this was going to move forward, it couldn't look like a family argument. It had to look like what it was, a matter of records, a matter of process. I was asked to cooperate, which meant one hard thing. Stay quiet. Don't warn anyone. Don't confront my mother. Don't let Wyatt know I'd seen a folder with his name in it. Keep showing up. Keep acting normal. So I did. I sat at my mother's dinner table and listened to her talk about family like it was a shield. I watched Wyatt check his phone like he was still untouchable. They were calm because they believed the story they'd sold would protect them. And I kept my face neutral because I wasn't building a speech. I was building a timeline. Then, on a Thursday morning, my phone buzzed. A short call. A calm voice. We're moving today, she said, simultaneous. I said, okay. And I hung up, feeling something I didn't expect. Not excitement, not revenge. Just the quiet certainty of a chess game reaching the position my grandfather had been waiting for. It happened early. Not dramatic, not loud. Just coordinated. At the same hour, in different places, the lies finally met paperwork. I wasn't there, and I'm glad. Because this story was never about watching anyone fall. It was about watching the truth stand up. My mother tried what she always tried. A calm voice, a steady face, a story about how my grandfather wasn't himself. But stories don't erase records. And for once, she wasn't dealing with family members trained to doubt themselves. She was dealing with people who only care about dates, signatures, and trails. Wyatt didn't get to talk his way out either. Whatever image he'd built, successful, untouchable, smarter than everyone, couldn't survive the moment his name showed up where it shouldn't have been. That's the part people don't understand. You can hide behind charm for years, but you can't charm a timeline. After that, everything moved the way it moves when facts matter more than feelings. Documents reviewed, records checked, consequences that didn't care who cried the loudest. And through all of it, I kept thinking about my grandfather. The man everyone treated like a harmless old farmer. He wasn't helpless. He was patient. He couldn't stop what was happening in real time. So he documented, he prepared, he waited, and he left me the key. People ask if I feel guilty. I don't. I feel sad sometimes because I wanted a family, not a case file. But love without honesty is just control, and protecting yourself isn't betrayal. It's responsibility. My grandfather was right. The truth is patient. It can wait longer than any lie. And when it finally shows up, it doesn't need to shout. It just needs to be undeniable. Thank you so much for watching. More of my most gripping stories are already on your screen. Click one now and don't miss the best part. You will love it.